So what is the future of CP3 in San Antonio? What are some takeaways from the Spurs' final media conferences?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. And yeah, the offseason has begun, so we're going to get that going right here on Locked On Spurs today. But first, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first and only spot to come here for all things silver and black. You guys are the everydayers. Make sure to subscribe on Locked On Spurs. What, the YouTube page? You got Facebook. You got, what else? Instagram. I mean, seriously, TikTok. Apparently, there's a Locked On Spurs TikTok. I just learned that the other day, too. So even there, go there right now. Go subscribe. Of course, you got the Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube. You know where to go. Locked On Spurs newsletter is in the description below. Click on that link. Go subscribe right now, or just go to LockedOnDaily.com for all of the rest of the Locked On NBA shows and their newsletters as well. As you can see on your screen, we're going to be talking about some off-season stuff. Yeah, I know, season's over. Let the off-season begin. But we're going to be looking at the future of CP3 in San Antonio. Could he still be wearing silver and black next season? Will he be wearing any NBA jersey next season? We're going to be discussing that. And then some takeaways from the Spurs' final conferences with the media. Some interesting things that were said. We're going to pick one thing that we liked or maybe didn't like. Stay tuned for that. But the Spurs said before they closed the chapter on the 24-25 season. So let's go to bring in our guest to do that and more. He is Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. The good thing about the offseason, Raul, is that I'm not going to let you go. So you're still going to be coming on Locked On Spurs until the wheels come off with this offseason. But welcome back.
Yeah, it'll be good offseason.
It's going to be busy, yeah. Is it just me? I'm a little bit more excited for the offseason than I was for the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah.
Right?
You know, like we kind of, I think you and I were talking about it being the season. We kind of had some expectations for them. Yeah. I think you and I predicted 35 wins. They got 34.
Yeah, close.
But then, because of injuries. But now, you got Fox, Castle, Wemby, and then the offseason. So, yeah, I think this offseason is going to be a lot more exciting than the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure to follow Raul on X at Dominguez Cinco. You do that right now. He is the AP sports writer based in San Antonio. We'll talk about what he's cooking this offseason in just a few minutes. But as you can see in your screen, Raul, we're going to be talking about CP3's feature in San Antonio. Now, there was an article during the regular season from Anscape. He talked about his future, not just with the Spurs, but just continuing playing his game. He said that he's going to talk to his family about it. With the Spurs exit interview with the media, he kind of repeated the same thing. He even joked, he goes like, y'all can ask it in so many different ways. However, at the end of the day, he goes, I'm going to talk it over with my family first. But barring that, whatever decision he and his loved ones make, should the Spurs attempt to keep him on the roster, he is a free agent, or move on and just say, thank you, CP3, for your 1 year of service. We appreciate it, but we got to continue. Where do you stand with the future of CP3 in San Antonio?
I think if the Spurs could bring him back and he's willing to take on a lesser role, be a reserve, bring him back. I mean, this guy has been phenomenal.
Absolutely.
A great leader, veteran presence, but even more so. I mean, he's had a really good season. You look at his stats. He's produced, scoring wise. Assist wise, low number of turnovers, been able to direct that offense. He's been able to be a coach on the floor. I mean, there's no reason why you wouldn't bring him back. And I know people say, well, age is a factor. He played all 82 games.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And, he's the way he looked, like if the Spurs had made a long postseason run, he could have done that as well. So to me, you definitely bring him back if you can. But it would have to be as a reserve because I think at this point you need to have Castle and Fox in that starting backcourt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're right. The numbers show that he's still serviceable. Obviously he's not CP3 of the New Orleans days or Lob City days, but he still was a steady force on the court. I was impressed by his 3-point shooting. I didn't think he was that, I want to say reliable, but if he needed the three in a clutch situation, would be okay with the ball in his hands. So there was that. We saw how many times he, put the Spurs players in position, even to the bitter end. The game versus Toronto, there was a play where they're going back in transition and he's running that break and he points to Mamu and he tells Mamu, run right here. You can read his lips. He goes, run right here. Mamu follows that, easy layup. Chris Paul goes back. I'm like, what I tell you, that vibe. So that floor general, I think the Spurs need. Not to say that Castle doesn't have that, but I think it's still maybe a little too early for Castle to be that type of leader to guide everybody here, go there, but there. He does have experience as CP3. Now, the thing about it, though, is as much as we would like to see CP3 back, but I think the sticking point is, and we heard it in the conference, he still wants to play. Still, if he comes back, he made it very clear. He still feels good. He wants it. His words, he wants to hoop. And unfortunately, I don't think there'll be a lot of hooping minutes next season because Castle just forced the Spurs to start him. There's no doubt. You have to start him next year. Do you think if the Spurs say we can bring you back, but in a bench reserve, that might be kind of like the red line, the line of the sand? He might say, nah, I'm good.
I think it's going to depend on kind of what other offers he gets.
Yeah.
Paul seemed to love San Antonio. He loved the Spurs organization. He loves his young teammates. I mean, they were calling him Unc.
Yep.
He seemed to like that. I think at first he kind of like was taken aback. Like, why are you calling me Unc? And then he seemed to grow on him. Like he realized these guys are young guys that are looking up to him. Sort of the beloved uncle. So I think it's going to depend on what sort of other offers he gets. Maybe he goes to Dallas and starts, until Kyrie gets back. Or maybe even continues to start even after Kyrie gets back, as Kyrie kind of works his way back into condition. And but that seems like a really good spot for Chris. But again, I think it depends on what is out there. I don't see him doing another one where, like with the Spurs, where he'll go to a team that's sort of young and building and being in that role again. I think his next stop is going to be someplace where he feels like he can possibly win a championship.
Yeah. The only other teams I can think of where he'll get hooping minutes is Washington. But does he want to go to Washington? That's a young team there that's on the building. They're going to have a high pick, but I don't know if he wants to do that again. I don't see go back to the Hornets, maybe. I don't know, but still, but he did say he likes what he sees that the team is building in San Antonio. He's it's great. He mentioned names. He goes Wemby. He goes Fox. So he sees what they're building in San Antonio. The problem is if he wants to exit the game, at least with a playoff push, maybe another finals appearance, maybe a ring, it's not going to happen in San Antonio. There's a part of me I think he's accepted that. That if he does call it a career, that he may not win a ring. But that's the thing. If he wants to hoop, Raul, and he goes to a playoff contending team, what if he goes back to OKC? He ain't going to get minutes there as what he wants. But I think that's the balancing act. It's, do I get the minutes and play on a team that's not that good, or do I go to a team that's really good, but I may not get the minutes?
Yeah.
There's that factor, Raul.
Yeah, I just don't see him going to a team where he's not going to get very many minutes, because he's talked about early this season. He talked about one of the reasons why he came to San Antonio, because he said if he's going to be away from his family, I want to play. I don't want to sit on the bench. So I think it's going to be the same thing again. If he's going to be away from his family, he wants significant minutes. I don't think it's necessarily that he has to start, but he has to log some pretty good minutes. So. I think the three that jump out to me are Spurs, as you mentioned, Washington, and then again Dallas. I think those are the three clubs that I think where he might go to. Maybe he goes back to the Clippers in a reserve role.
Yeah,
you get to be back home. Maybe the Lakers, because LA's his home. But I just don't see him going, like say to an OKC or a Boston where he wouldn't get a lot of minutes. I'm sure he'd love a ring, but he doesn't. He wouldn't. the competitor in him wouldn't allow him just to sort of get a ring just for sitting on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. He is Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Make sure to follow him on X at Dominguez5. Do that right now. When we get back, we're going to continue our chat about CP3 in San Antonio. Pros, cons, we're going to weigh them, and then talk about some takeaways from the Spurs exit interviews with the media. That and more right here on Locked On Spurs.
When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've had this ongoing problem. I just don't have time. Between work, life, and trying to eat healthier, I was constantly feeling stressed out. I'd go to the grocery store, buy things I didn't need, then end up with no time to actually cook. And sticking to my health goals, that was a struggle too. But everything has changed when I discovered Hungry Root. Honestly, it's been a game changer. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and nutritionist all in one. They take care of my grocery shopping, recommending meals, groceries based on my taste, health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high-protein, gluten-free options. And the best part, every meal is ready within 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste great, all delivered straight to my door. It's been a huge time saver and has made healthy eating so much simpler. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. Code LockedOnNBA. Do not miss out.
All systems have been alerted to your presence. You must subscribe to Locked On Spurs immediately.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Follow him on X at Dominguez5, and we're talking about CP3's future in San Antonio. Now, in the first segment, kind of glossed over some of the bigger issues that well, not issues, but, things he has to contemplate. Playing time, but a bad team, or less playing time, but a good team. But I think the overriding factor here, and he's repeated it over and over again, is his family. And I think he's at that point of his life, not necessarily basketball career, just life, understanding that his kids are getting older. He mentioned in the exit interview about maybe spending some time with the AAU team that his sons are on. So there's that. But here's the other thing too, bro. What do you think about him coaching? We saw as the season progressed, and again, he didn't have any issue with the players, but he started sitting with the coaching staff. He was sitting right next to Mitch, right next to Brett Brown. And we saw him get up off his seat and literally coach like an NBA coach would do. If he wants to pursue that path, I think coming back to San Antonio and learning from one of the best coaching staffs in general, seriously, the resume speaks for itself. From Will Hardy to Becky, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
What do you think about that capacity?
Yeah, I mean, I think he hadn't really so much considered coaching. I think that something that was in the back of his mind, but not really something he thought about. I think being around this group got him thinking more about coaching. This group of players were so receptive to listening to him. Whether it was Victor or Castle or Devin, I mean, they all rave about just the way that he was, and just listening to him and talk about how he sees things that they don't even see, and you see him, like you're mentioning, he's out there, there was times where I'd see him run, kind of being like what Pop or, Mitch would do, just sort of run when he's not playing, he would run to midcourt and start pointing stuff out or yelling, plays out or whatever. So I think he's gotten the coaching bug. He would be a tremendous coach. I think he'd be maybe possibly a little hard on his players. I think he might be a little bit not to the level that Pop is, but kind of that sort of that tough sort of disciplinarian. But I think he'd be an excellent coach. I mean, I think
me too.
Chris has got such a brilliant basketball mind. He could be a coach or a GM, but I think he would really excel at coaching because he sees the game so well.
Yeah. Well, like Stohan said in the post conference was after the Toronto Raptors win. I'm surprised like Chris Paul is not in Hawaii right now doing something else, but he's playing basketball, and that's how much he loves playing the game, and you can see it in the passion, the way he talks. the way he talks about hooping, the way he just enjoys the game. He says, what did he say? He goes, I hate losing more than I love winning, something like that. So just the drive is still there. You can see it in his eyes. I don't think he's ready to call it a career yet. I think he does want to continue playing. I personally think, and maybe I'm biased, but sure, I think San Antonio is still the spot for him. But again, the rub is he has to take a back seat to Castle. There's no doubt about it. Castle's earned the right to start. You're not going to bench Fox. So there's your two backcourt mates right there, Fox and Castle. I think he connected well with Wemby. I think before Wemby went out, you saw them run the pick and roll. He was even getting on Wemby as well. The Spurs, as you mentioned, the young team was receptive to him. There was kind of like the reputation that he has of being a hard-nosed player and one of the more difficult teammates to be with. But you never saw that. You never saw the Spurs young players kind of like, whatever, old man, get out of my face. Nothing like that. They were absorbing every single second. And also, too, kudos to the Spurs. They really made him feel at home. When he broke the assist record, they presented him with that awesome gift of every person he's ever assisted with. You saw the fans cheering for him. He talked about the city. He talked about the fan love. I'm going to say he might be okay coming off the bench next year. What do you think?
I think so. Like I said, I think it's going to depend on what's out there, but I could definitely see him coming back, taking on a reserve role. Like I said, the players really loved him, and I think that sort of, like you mentioned, as far as some people say, oh, he's a little difficult as a teammate, but I think the Spurs young guys had so much love and respect for him that whatever he said was gold. Like they were going like, oh God, here he goes again. They were all like, listening to him, nodding their head, and maybe they didn't agree with some stuff, but they were so respectful of him that they listened to him, regardless of whether or not they agreed with it. They took everything that he said, they took it in.
Yeah, and even with us, I never had a more pleasant experience with the player post game. He'd talk to you, he wouldn't scoff at your questions, he would have fun with them. For example, in the last game, he said, oh, y'all can ask it so many ways, but at the end of the day, it's going to be up to me and my family. But even during the locker room access, he and I started talking about his potato chips. Seriously, we had a little conversation about his chips. He was like, oh yeah, they started here and they're over there. So, and then you talk about that locker room too. I was in that room where the nickname for him, Unk, came out, and I remember seeing Chris Paul looking at the young guy's face like, you guys are crazy. Like, what's going on here? And even Keldon would have fun with them. So I don't know if y'all noticed this, but I certainly did. But CP3, he dresses kind of a little snazzy there. Nice clothes, well put together. There was a time where CP3 was getting dressed in the locker room, and he's putting on very nice clothes, and Keldon is near him, and Keldon's like, whoa, look at you. What is going on? And Chris is just loving it, enjoying it. So I think the young guys kind of injected a nice little, inspiration, a little bit more motivation for him to keep on going. And let's not forget this too, Raul. Another reason why I think he would come back, this team is on the rise. And if things go right, they might be not just in the play-in next season, they could be chasing maybe a number 6 seed next year, because
I think depending on who they bring in, I still think they might sign another free agent or two. I could see them top 4 team. I mean, you think about a healthy De'Aaron, a healthy Victor, some of the different turmoil that's going on in the Western Conference as far as teams, firing coaches and like that. I could definitely see them as a top 4, as long as everybody's healthy and they get a good draft pick and a free agent.
Yeah. And we say CP3 has a great basketball mind, then he should see like what's building in San Antonio. You're going to have sophomore Castle. He's likely going to be, loving it coming off a Rookie of the Year award. NBA, you got to give it to him. There's no doubt about it. He won it. So there's that. You got a nice core with Castle, Fox, and Wemby. You have your peripheral players with Sohan, Keldon, and Devin. Now, obviously, the biggest caveat here, if the Spurs make a trade, they may have to flip some of these young players. But outside of that, if they just keep the same unit, they bring back the team. Again, this team could be a little deadly in the Western Conference, because you mentioned you got the West, you kind of know who the usual suspects are going to be next season. It's going to be OKC, might still be Denver. Clippers are going to be around. The Lakers are going to be there. But then you start seeing what's going on with Sacramento. There's rumblings that DeMar and Sabonis aren't happy there. There's the Mavericks. Kyrie, will he be back? There's the Pelicans. They're not going anywhere. So the Rockets are still probably going to be there. So there's going to be a chance there. And the Warriors, too. Who knows if this is their last run? So there's that. So there's that window right there for the Spurs to rip deep into it. Wemby's going to come back hungry. Just so much upside. So if you're Chris Paul, sure, you may not win a title next year, but you can be part of a damn good Western Conference team next year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I hadn't even really thought about that. We're talking about as far as, Paul possibly taking a lesser role, but could be a lesser role on a team that makes a deep playoff run or, makes a good playoff run. And if chips happen to fall in the right place, maybe possibly win it all or make the finals. So, he could potentially, I think Chris has another couple years of him at least.
Yeah.
So, maybe he signs a 2-year contract, maybe a first year or second year, has an opportunity to win a title. So,
yeah. No, I get it. The Spurs are not nowhere where the Nuggets are. But you look at what his contemporary did, Westbrook. Westbrook took a role off the bench, and he's been, for the good part, thriving in that role for Denver. Now, obviously, Denver and the Spurs, as of this recording, nowhere near each other. But Chris Paul can be a part of that development, is because I think next season it's not just going to be about player development. I think we got to see team development right now. We got to see the team take the next step, and that next step is either play-in or playoffs. That it has to be, and Chris Paul can help them get the team push it over the edge. With the Spurs, players talked about how he's helped them individually. Jeremy Sohan, though I saw the way he talks to refs. Mamu, the way he puts me in positions, same thing over and over again. So I think team collectively, you got to see them make the next jump to there. Do you think whoever the head coach is going to be next season may be a factor in Chris Paul's decision or no?
No, I don't think so. I think it's more about the organization and the players at this point. If hopefully Pop comes back, but if not, then maybe it's Mitch. But either way, I mean, Chris loves the organization. The whole RC and Brian Wright and the staff and the training staff. So and Chris, talked about how he loved playing for the Spurs fans. Same Spurs fans used to yell at him all the time. Screaming him. Now they're screaming for him. So he talked about how great that was. To have them love him rather than having them hate him. Like it was an opponent.
Yeah, exactly. But I if he leaves to go chase a ring or a deep playoff run, I understand. I get it. And I also understand, too, as a competitor, maybe he's not ready to take a 6-man role. Maybe he's not there yet. And so if he wants to take his talents elsewhere, no hard feelings, totally understandable. Thank you for your 1 year. You helped this team develop individually as players. You definitely helped Steph Castle. I mean, their lockers were right next to each other. Even told Castle, hey, in the offseason, I want you to go see a playoff game to get that fire burning in him. So if that's the lasting memory we have of Chris Paul in San Antonio, that's awesome. And I think Spurs fans are also forgetting this. For once, if it's just one season, they had a Hall of Fame point guard played for the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge. That's huge in the chapter of the Spurs franchise history. All right, there you have it. Those are our thoughts. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say just real quick, and you were talking earlier about as far as him and the way he dressed, and I think you were in there that one time when he had like on I think it was kind of an old school like Letterman jacket that was a State Farm one, and he's putting it on, and I remember it was with Keldon and Jeremy were like they were like because the Letterman jacket hat was really nice, it was an old school out one. I think it had maybe his name on it or something there in the front, and at State Farm, and I remember if it was Jeremy or Keldon, but come over and they like brushing off the little emblem like
yes, I were.
Yeah, like I remember Chris was just like kind of like like it's like the like your children coming up and bobbing while you're trying to conduct business. Hey, get away. Yeah, it was just kind of funny. It reminded me when you were talking about that, about how sort of the camaraderie that they had and how much of that, love and respect they had.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember too. We're Chris Paul was standing in front of the whiteboard, and we were all facing again the whiteboard they had there. And then I remember I was on, I guess, the left side of him, and I just remember feeling Keldon like walking into the huddle, and then Sohan started coming in, and then they're like, "Whoa, look at you!" And they were just loving it. But Chris Paul is a very snazzy dresser. He really, even when he's dressed casual, it's still snazzy. But maybe one day I'll be able to afford those kind of clothes. I doubt it. Anyway, those are our thoughts about Chris Paul in San Antonio. Should the Spurs keep him? Should they not? There's pros and cons. Yeah, there's castle effect. And then there's, hey, keeping that veteran presence. Then there's his personal decision, whether it be the family decision or his decision to not take a back seat in him and at this point of his career, or just continue forward chasing that ring. So we love to hear what you all think. Let Raul know on X at Dominguez 5. You can let me know by leaving a comment at Locked On Spurs YouTube. Maybe we'll read it in a future episode. Coming up next, we're going to be discussing the final chats the Spurs had with the media. What is one thing we took away from those discussions with the players? We're going to do that coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But first, I want to talk to you about Open Phone.
Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get a complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, not a problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge.
This is Emilio Rivera, El Padrino for the Mayans MC. You are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Follow him on X at Dominguez 5. You want to do that right now. So, Raul, the Spurs conducted their final chat with the media. They had some pregame. They had some postgame. The big surprise when Wemby spoke pregame. It was the point where even you were surprised. You caught up with me in the workroom. You're like, hey, did you know that Wemby was going to talk? So, by the way, everybody, he did confirm in so many words that he did have surgery on the shoulder there. But outside of that, it was a lot of, what you expected the Spurs to say. Excited for next season. Thank you, fans, for being there despite the down season. Also Keldon, too. He said, he looked at the bright side. He said, hey, he goes, we did win 34 games. That's a big jump from last year. But, Raul, when you look back at those final chats to the media for the 24-25 season, what was one takeaway you were left with?
I think the big thing that I was kind of thinking about this, kind of thinking back on this was how much the players love playing for the Spurs and playing for San Antonio. I mean, you can feel it like this is home for them. It's Keldon sort of fully embraced the Western culture. You see him out there with cowboy hats, boots and the blue jeans on, and going to he doesn't go to Buc-ee's anymore, but I know he used to love to go to Buc-ee's. But Devin as well, Victor, De'Aaron talked about it. Chris Paul even talked about how much they love playing in San Antonio, how much they love the organization, and you just get the sense that they want to stay here, they want to build something, they want to make this their home. I think that's one of the big things I took away was how committed they are to the organization and to the city as well. You don't have that with every player, with every stop.
Mm-hmm.
You have some players that bounce, almost year to year, every contract to contract, the moving around. But it seems like these guys want to stay here for, for their whole career or most of their career, and get the sense that even when they're done with San Antonio, that they're going to stay here, sort of like what Manu and Tony and Tim and David did, and Sean Elliott, where they want to make this their home, San Antonio their home. And I was just saying the big thing about that is when you have players that are that committed, I mean, that they're willing to do whatever it takes. They're willing to accept, maybe a smaller contract. You saw Tim do it. You saw Manu do it. You saw Tony do it, where they could have gone elsewhere, for more money, but they took a little less to work with the Spurs budget, to help them with the roster, as far as the salary cap. So that's huge. I think fans don't quite realize how important that is to have a player that's that committed to a city and an organization.
Yeah, exactly. And it was very heartwarming to hear how much the Spurs love the city of San Antonio, because everybody bags on San Antonio. Oh, it's a small market. Who wants to play in San Antonio? Nothing to do there. Riverwalk, Alamo, what else is there? But, for those of y'all who never lived in San Antonio, it's like a big, small city. Seriously, it really is. And it has that big family vibe, to the point where Keldon Johnson said in his exit interview that he brought his family to San Antonio. He said there's a good spot to bring family to. So that's huge for Keldon Johnson.
Yeah.
And even Mamu's a free agent, and Mamu told me, after the game against Toronto, the final game, he said, hey, because, we'll see, and hopes to be back. He even put it on X that, he said, thank you, San Antonio, for your love. And it sounds like he will love to come back. So there's that. And I think that's huge, because if they're building something in San Antonio, I get it. Wemby's a big draw. A lot of free agents are going to want to play with him.
Yeah.
But if they're giving bringing endorsement of the city, hopefully that'll fall on the ears of possible free agents, Raul.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think it was Mike Finger asked De'Aaron about, as far as like maybe trying to. Well, first off, De'Aaron's not even signing the extension yet, but I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion. They're going to sign him to the extension, but the fact is he still doesn't have that extension yet. And Mike Finger asked him about, as far as like luring or sort of talking to other players, free agents come in here, and he said he was going to do everything he can to bring some free agents in here. Talk to them about how great the city is, what kind of team they're building here. So, like I said, that's the other big part of it. You have players that love the city, that love the organization. They can talk to other players about that as far as coming in. So they are players. Are the best recruiters for other players. So
absolutely,
that's going to be big for them this offseason as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully allow possible Spurs free agents, they can recruit and heard what they have to say about San Antonio. And San Antonio definitely got them. So, I mean, the Chamber of Commerce sort of hired the Spurs for that moment there, put that in the video. By the way, everybody, Jeremy Sohan did say that he wants to be the Spurs Coyote in the future. We did say that. And, I wasn't surprised that he said that's a Sohan thing to say. Now, why? Does he want to be the Spurs Coyote? Because he likes firing the T-shirt cannon. Yeah. Literally said, he goes, that thing has some punch to it. He's like, that thing has power. And then he goes, I wouldn't mind being the Spurs Coyote. He goes, I get a little money, and he taps in his pocket. He goes, yeah. He goes, why not? So the ex-Coyote could be Jeremy Sohan once his playing days are over. But outside of that, for me, what stood out is the ringing endorsement that the players gave Mitch Johnson. I get it. They're not going to sit there and bash him and say, oh, no, get Mitch out of here. He's not ready. But to a T, all the Spurs players said, hey, Mitch did a good job considering what he was thrusted into. Imagine if you're at work and your boss gets sick, your CEO of a company gets sick, and they say, all right, you're up, and you have no experience, and you got to wing it. That's what basically Mitch Johnson had to deal with, from, figuring out how to be a head coach to shifting gears from a player development coach to then you're in charge of the whole thing, managing losses, managing wins, keeping the ship steady. And by the way, kudos to Mitch too. Win or loss, win big, lose bad, get thumped by the Warriors as they did in San Antonio, beat the Warriors in Golden State as they did, whatever it was, Mitch kept his cool. He never got upset post game. He had a positive attitude, and I think that's key for a young coach. You don't get too high, you don't get too low. The Spurs players, they saw that. Keldon Johnson said he helped him tremendously developmental-wise. Everybody had a ringing endorsement for him. Obviously, it's not their decision to keep him as a head coach next season. But if they do, what I took away was this team has faith in Mitch to run the show. Raul, your thoughts?
I definitely think so too. I mean, there's a lot of obviously attractive candidates out there. You look at Coach Malone, Coach Jenkins. Malone from Denver, Michael Malone, Taylor Jenkins from Memphis. They just fired Coach Bud Budenholzer in Phoenix. Monty Williams is coaching high school in San Antonio. Yeah, Becky Hammond in Las Vegas. But if they, this is all obviously contingent on Pop and whether or not he wants to come back. I'm really hoping that Pop comes back. But if he doesn't, if he decides, hey, it's time for me to retire. A lot of great choices, but I think Mitch would be an excellent choice. I realize he doesn't have the resume that some of those people that I mentioned, but you look at Boston. I mean, when they had that incident happen with Ime Udoka, they could have gotten anybody they wanted to. I mean, they had a great team. Those poised to win a championship. They could have gone out and hired any big name, but they stayed in house. They got Joe Mazzulla, who no one had heard of really, other than hardcore fans. Heard of, they kept him there, and you look at the tremendous job he's done. I think Mitch could do something similar where, he could do the same thing. Mitch he sounds like Doc Rivers a little bit as far as voice wise, but
I was stuck in my head now. I never thought of that until now.
But he reminds me of Coach Kerr, just sort of that even approach that he has, and just sort of almost like a player's coach. But he's still sort of a disciplinarian, still challenges them, but he's very even keel. He gets mad, but it's usually nothing too over the top. So like I said, he reminds me of Coach Kerr a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my one takeaway, just from him overall this entire season once he took the interim head coaching range, is just how calm and cool he was. I mean, obviously behind closed doors in the locker room, maybe it'd be a different story, but in front of us, just even said it too. He goes, I'm not going to be Pop. He goes, everybody's going to be different. He goes, he's just himself. And I think he did a good job of still being himself, but at the same time, picking up that baton on a second's notice. And that's got to just be like, imagine you're at your desk right now. Somebody goes, you're going to be now the head coach. You'll be, huh? What? Yeah. That's not how you reacted. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, not just head coach, head coach or the boss of someone who's like, Hall of Famer or someone that's considered one of the greatest to ever do it. And you're like, we need you to fill in for him. And but he's done a tremendous job with it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if he doesn't get the job, at least remove the label of interim next season, fine. I get it. As you mentioned, there's other qualified candidates out there right now. But of course, everything hinges on Pop, his decision. I would suspect maybe the Spurs have an idea where Pop is leaning towards, right?
No, not Pop. Pop is very holds everything very close to the vest. So I'm sure they don't know. I'm sure Pop hasn't. Maybe Pop's talked to RC about it, but privately. But I don't think Pop even knows where he's at right now. I think he's going to wait. I'm sure Pop has an idea in his head, but I'm sure he's going to kind of wait and see how the offseason goes for him, rehab wise. But I don't think anybody but Pop knows what's going to happen with him. So,
yeah, exactly. But but I did walk away thinking like, wow, the players and Mitch, they really connected. Even he, and I love how many times he would say, "I'm happy for them. I'm happy for them." Yeah, I mean, the final game when they won, he goes, I was disappointed in them the way they played to start the game. But I was disappointed for them because they were not playing the way they should play. And he goes, and then I'm happy for them. He kept on saying that because they got the W. They show what they're made of. So he really put the players in focus. He put the team in focus. And I think that's a sign of a good coach, whether that's next season or down the road for Mitch. He has the foundation set for him. And man, they they say experience is the only great teacher. Well, he definitely got a lot of that this year, didn't he?
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, if again, I really truly hope that Pop comes back, but if he doesn't,
Yeah.
And they decide to go with Mitch, and rather than some of the other names, I'm sure that would disappoint a lot of fans. Like, oh, you could have had so and so, you could have had this coach or that coach. But I'm telling you, Mitch can handle that job. I was thoroughly impressed with him the whole season. Realized that Spurs didn't do what the Spurs fans were hoping for, but you got to consider they lost Pop, Wemby, De'Aaron. So I thought he did a great job. They finished, I think it was 11 and 19. I think it was ever since Wemby got injured. So that's still pretty good. 11 and 19 without Wemby, and then without Fox. So I definitely think Mitch, if it happens and Mitch is named the head coach, I think he's gonna do extremely well. I think a lot of Spurs fans are gonna have to say, you know what, I was wrong, and glad they kept him.
Yeah. Well, Raul, get ready for the comments coming at you, because there's the comments right now. Spurs fans definitely may not agree with this, what we're saying right now, but I think you got to give him a fair shake. Got to give him a fair shake, and a fair shake means a full off season, a full time in preseason, full time in training camp, start of a season, not just thrown into the fire. I think next year, if the Spurs continue with Mitch, and as mentioned, as Raul was mentioning, Pop's decision, then we'll see what he's truly made of if they pick him moving forward. But yeah, that was my takeaway, just how much the players connected with Mitch as their head coach to finish out the season. He is Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. Follow him on X at Dominguez5. Well, Raul, the offseason is here, so what are you going to be working on?
Just kind of seeing what's going on in the offseason with the Spurs. Draft lottery is going to be coming up. I think it's in middle of May, I believe.
Yeah, that's great.
As far as like when they find out where they draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure once they do that, there's going to be a lot of speculation as to whoever they're going to pick. Of course, if the Spurs, have another great fortune and get number one, obviously you know who they're going to pick. But aside from that, I mean, a lot of speculation and just kind of waiting on the new Spurs season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the basketball gods smile on the Spurs again and get that number one pick, man. I'm right there. If they pass on Raul Dominguez out of San Antonio, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be so upset if they pass on him. Number one pick. Oh, that's you, Raul. Sorry.
Yeah, no, Cooper Flag.
Yeah, but I think they're locked in at number 8 as of now. In at 8. And I think they get Atlanta's 13th pick. But obviously that can change with the lottery. The ping pong balls could fall in the Spurs' way. And, man, that'd be crazy. You know what? I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm going to keep expectations low, because if I start thinking Castle, Wemby, Fox, and Flag, oh, my goodness, get the championship parade ready, San Antonio. But let's breathe a little bit. Let's see how the basketball gods smile on the Spurs or not. Again, he is Raul Dominguez of the AP Sports. And follow him on X at Dominguez5. By the way, just because the Spurs offseason is here doesn't mean I'm not going to stop bothering Raul. So Raul will be back as the offseason continues, because we got a long one, and I'm going to need Raul's help to get me through this and you guys through the offseason. So again, Raul, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here on Locked On Spurs. We always appreciate it, and I hope you go number one in the 2025 NBA draft. So, but for everybody else, thank you guys for being the everydayers. You come here every single day to Locked On Spurs. We appreciate it. Make sure to follow us on, you got Locked On Spurs YouTube. You also got, you got Ken's 5 Plus app. You got iTunes. You got Spotify. You got every platform. Follow us there. Also, Locked On Spurs newsletter is in the description below, and you're watching on YouTube. Click on that link, or just go to lockedondaily.com. You can see it on the screen right next to Raul right there. But for Raul, we'll be back tomorrow. Yes, we're not. Yeah, gotta make sure to mention that. We're not done. We're going to still continue throughout the entire week until we start taking our foot off the gas later on this offseason. But that's still a whiles away. So we'll be back tomorrow talking all things silver and black. So for Raul Dominguez, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.